Hello and welcome to PixelPia, a Gemini on AI. I am PixelPia and today I will continue my series about how we can use different AI tools as a creative companion. Today we are going to try to use Gemini from Google, a large language model, LLM, to create a kid's story. We are going to do 5 steps today. We are going to generate an idea, including a genre and the audience we are planning for. We are going to develop our characters. We are going to develop an environment, setting the tone of voice, and finally outline the plot, the story itself. But before we start, let me give you a little background to why I chose this project. I am originally from Sweden, where I worked as a teacher, and back, I guess it's around 30 years ago, I did one of the most fun projects I ever done with a sixth grade class. We worked on developing stories in different genres. Each genre we worked on for about a month and a half, and we used these steps before we started to write, or the students started to write their own stories. And this was one of the most giving projects I have ever done with any class in all my years as a teacher. The skills these students developed were fantastic. And when I was preparing for this series about AI as a creative companion, I started thinking, what if I have had these tools back in the days when we did this writing project? And having the students use these tools to develop the different steps of this before they started the writing itself. So, with that background, let's move over to my computer and see what we can do with these tools. So, here we are in Gemini Advanced, and I am going to ask Gemini to be my writing coach and give it some basic information to start. I want you to act as my writing coach as I'm writing a children's book. I want you to take me through these 5 steps one at a time. And here we have the 5 steps. And help me by asking me questions. Do you understand your role? Absolutely, I'm excited to be your writing coach and guide you through the creation of your children's book. We'll tackle each of the 5 steps together, one at a time. Let's dive into the first step: story idea generation, genre, and defining audience. Brainstorming. What sparks your imagination? What themes or topics resonates with you? Are there any stories you loved as a child that might inspire you? Genre, what type of children's book do you envision writing? Is it a picture book, a chapter book, a fairy tale, an adventure story, or something else? An audience. Who are you writing for? So let's answer these questions. So here I gave it the information. I wanted this to be a fantasy story, maybe with a noon girl as the main character. I want it to be about friendship and perseverance. It should be for kids aged 10 to 12. Okay, noon girl as the main character in a fantasy story about friendship and perseverance sounds wonderful. Targeting the 10 to 12 age group is perfect for exploring deeper themes while keeping the story engaging and relatable. Now let's dig a little deeper. The noon girl, what makes her unique? What are her strengths and weaknesses? Does she have any special abilities or traits related to being a noon? The Noon Girl and her family are dream makers. They create dreams and share them with human children if they need them. She is very loyal, but at the same time, she has difficulties following rules that she doesn't agree with. She will find friends during the story in the most unexpected situation, and the group will increase as they are moving forward in the story. At the end, she will learn the importance of friendship and the value that you might find in the rules, if you don't agree with them all the time. Gemini liked the ideas and her loyalty and independent spirits, along with a growing group of friends. Now let's move on to the next step, character development. So here we have the development of characters. I answered the question. Her name is Twilby. She is about 12 years old. She has bright blue eyes and long red hair. She loves nature and cookies and is a great singer. She wants her magic with creating dreams to one day be so strong that she can make dreams come true. Her friends are or will become a mischievous squirrel, a tired and grumpy owl, a small and sometimes very afraid mouse. She lives with her parents, who are also dream makers, no siblings, and they are very supportive of Twilby, but worried about her tendency to ignore rules she doesn't agree with. Now let's move over to the next step. For environment development, I have a few questions again. The dream workshop, what does it look like? Where is it located? What kind of tools and materials do Twilby and her family use to create dreams? And so forth. So let's start answering. So this is what I answered. The dream workshop is an old oak in the opening of the forest where they live. They create the dreams like spider webs and are chanting as they weave the dreams. It is all created by magic. She and her family lives in an opening in a lush forest in a giant mushroom. The opening is filled with light and creates a happy atmosphere. Twilby will wander off after an argument with her father about not following the rules when creating the dreams, as she makes them too fantastical, into the deep dark forest where she eventually meets her friends. Each friend she meets are in some kind of difficulty that she helps them with. Can you summarize what we have established so far? Story idea. Twilby, 12-year-old Noon Girl, lives in her dream maker parents in a giant mushroom house in a sunny forest clearing. Twilby is loyal but headstrong, often challenging rules she doesn't agree with. After an argument with her father about her unconventional dream-making methods, Twilby wanders into the deep dark forest. There she meets and helps a series of animal friends in need: a mischievous squirrel, a grumpy owl, and a timid mouse. Along her journey, Twilby learns valuable lessons about friendship, perseverance, and the importance of rules. Genre and audience. This is a fantasy story targeted at children aged 10 to 12. Characters. Twilby, a blue-eyed, red-haired Noon who loves nature, cookies, and singing. She aspires to make dreams come true with her magic. Parents are supportive of Twilby but concerned about her disregard for rules. And friends, a mischievous squirrel, a grumpy owl, and a timid mouse, each encountered and helped by Twilby on her journey. Environment. Dream workshop, an old oak in the forest clearing where dreams are spun like spider webs with magical chants. Home is a giant mushroom house in the sunny forest clearing, and journey takes Twilby into the deep dark forest where she meets her friend. At this stage, I would probably go back and develop each of the characters much more before I went on to the next step, which is tone of voice. But for this tutorial, we'll leave it like this right now. Now let's go on with tone of voice. So I just say, let's set the tone of voice now. Overall mode, since this is a children's fantasy story about friendship and perseverance, a whimsical and adventurous tone would be fitting. We can create a sense of wonder and excitement as Twilby explores the forest and helps her new friends. At the same time, we can incorporate heartwarming moments that highlight the importance of friendship and overcoming challenges. And a little bit of to language. The language should be engaging and descriptive, but not overly complex. And about point of view, the story could be told from Twilby's point of view using first-person narration. This would allow readers to experience the story through her eyes, feel her emotions, and connect with her on a personal level. Alternatively, we could use a third-person limited narrator who focuses primarily on Twilby's thoughts and feelings. I like the overall mode, but could it be possible to use both a narrator, maybe one of her friends, and combine that with parts in first person? And here is how it could do. One of Twilby's friends is the narrator, perhaps the owl could serve as the narrator for the majority of the story. The owl's wiser, more observant perspective could provide context, humor, and insight into Twilby's actions and motivations. The owl could also share their own thoughts and feelings, adding depth and richness to the narrative. First person, we could strategically incorporate Twilby's first person perspective in specific sections or chapters. These could be moments of heightened emotions, personal reflection, or crucial decision. This would allow readers to experience the story directly through Twilby's eyes and connect with her on a more intimate level. By combining these two perspectives, we can create a multi-layered narrative that offers different viewpoints and adds depth to the story. The narrator can provide an overview of the events and the characters, while Twilby's first-person sections can offer a more personal and emotional perspective. I think that sounds like a great idea. Now let's move on to the final step, the plot outline. To create a captivating and well-structured story, we need to outline the main events. Beginning, middle, the end. Okay, I'm gonna accept this and let Gemini create a very basic outline at this point. Let me see an outline. So chapter 1, the Dreamweaver. The owl introduces Twilby and her family, their dream-making abilities, and the enchanting forest they call home. And Twilby describes her love for creating fantastical dreams, her frustration with the rules, and the argument with her father. Chapter 2. The narrator follows Twilby as she ventures into the deep dark forest, highlighting her determination and curiosity. Twilby expresses her mixed feelings of fear and excitement, her desire to prove herself, and her longing for adventure. And then we have a chapter where she runs into the mischievous squirrel, the grumpy owl, and the timid mouse. Chapter 6, the Dreamweaver's challenge. Describe a crisis or challenge that threatens the forest and Twilby's new friends. And then chapter 7, the return home. And chapter 8, a new beginning. As I already have mentioned, this is just a very first basic outline. I would, in reality, if I was going to write this story, I would work much more on each of the 5 sections. ask more questions, go deeper into development of each character and the environment before I even got to tone of voice and the plot. But this can show you how you can use a large language model to develop the plot for a story. You still have a lot of work to do when it comes to writing the story itself. Let me now turn back to where I started. If I have had access to a tool like this back in Sweden 30 years ago, I can just imagine how these students would have developed their stories and how this tool had really helped them by asking questions they might not have thought about themselves. I would love to see young children take on the challenge of using a tool like this and develop their own stories. This is where I'm going to end today's story. Next time, we have one more interesting thing to do, and that is creating imagery for this story. Until next time, as always, stay curious, stay informed, and be a part of the change. Bye.